So why or why not the NRX movement, the movement that I've just been talking about in another video summarizing the Morten skovgaards article from the Danish magazine POV? It's very thrilling for me to read about it, and it's kept me thinking now for several hours and trying to record this video. This is the fourth attempt. I get 15 to 20 minutes in, and then something goes wrong in my thoughts and in my ideas, because this is so game changing that I don't understand it in depth either, but I can relate to it. And the biggest questions going on in my mind: do we, the people, or the citizens of democracies, really dare give up our basic rights? And I know they can feel illusionary, and they can be right, these people in the NRX movement, that we are just living a facade and a farce of having these rights while there is an elite governing us. But do we really dare give up what's on paper to what's not on paper? Do we dare give up our basic rights so this totalitarian ruler can lead, or the monarch in God's name, the tech monarch, he would lead the corporates across the nations and countries, using people for productivity? But would they be insured, and would there be anything to uphold their rights? Like, if I work for these tech companies and they don't need me anymore, would I be thrown out? Would I get a pension? Would I have any rights anyway? Because my rights are only bound by what this corporate would like me to have. So the way of democracy is like securing my civil rights, that I cannot be persecuted by these companies, and I cannot be thrown out without a kind of compensation, and I need to have a pension running, a pension payment running, and I have my basic rights that they cannot just treat me as they like. So do we dare go back to what they call the new feudal system? Or some interpret it like that. They don't see it as a feudal system. They see it as going back to the natural order of one king, and those who own the land has the saying. Those who produce the money and owns it has the rule. And why is that wrong? We all understand that, and we all like succumb to that, even in democracies, because we know in democracies that there is everyone who knows a little about society and knows a little about politics, knows there are elites running things behind the lines. And what I call the circus clowns, the politicians standing in front of the TV, some of them are very honest and good people. I'm not saying, I've also met some of these, but most of them are kind of circus clowns chosen because they can smile, and they can be psychopathic, some of them, or just able to put up a good show in front of the masses so they can get the votes. And when they go back, all their work is about how they can help these people who help them to get into power. We know that. I know that intuitively. I cannot prove it right now sitting here, but many people can feel it, and they are feeling it more and more. And these people from this NRX movement seem to have seen through all that, and because they are rich and they are protected, they can talk about it in ways we can't. And they have allied themselves with what they call new liberal and new conservative movements who want to go back to a type of society where they exit democracy and reset society back to a system where it's governed by the interest of the corporates, and they can be transnational and put down these national states. That's actually just an obstacle in the way, and just a type of bureaucrats and people who got themselves into places they should never be, because they are not productive other than sitting on the benches of being consultants and being bureaucrats. They want to get rid of all that and let the companies have the free reins and the efficiency they need. And why not? Why is that wrong? That will bring better productivity, and more people will get work, and more people will prosper from this, at least those who are related to the companies and can be productive. And isn't that the basic way of life? That if you are not productive, well, you are out of life. I was in Greenland, and in their history, people who were walking with a group on the ice and walking on the sledge, and they couldn't walk anymore, or they get injured, they were left behind on the ice, and they were there to die. and they were left for the animals to eat because the animals also needed food, or they threw themselves out of a high cliff down into the water or down onto the ice cap, and thereby lessening the burden of society. So they say this is the natural way of life. But what concerns me is that, can we the people give up these basic rights for what? And would we be safe in any way later? Should we be safe? And is it right as it is today, where many people can choose some ideological figures in parties that actually are working for these corporates behind the lines, or maybe helping the elites getting away with a lot of things that we people don't know about and cannot have the time to follow, because we don't have the time to look into politics as they are. We can just vote every 4 years and see some pictures, say, oh, this woman looks nice, her eyes are beautiful, or this guy looks very sharp with these glasses, and everything is staged like that. They are not the real rulers. We are choosing what I call circus clowns to and stage actors to rule us. So why not this shift? The second concern I have about it, even though it's thrilling and there are aspects of it I like, but I also have some concerns. This second concern I have about it is that they are basically, most of them, atheistic, and as a spiritual man who knows a lot about religion, have left it and felt it. I have also this idea and notion, maybe it's just my way of thinking that's wrong, that many atheist people, they just hate religious values, and they hate the notion that we should have empathy. It's the strongest that rules. It's the rule of the jungle. It's God have given me power. They don't believe in God, but life has given me power, and this power is mine, and I can do with it what I like. And if you cannot compete with me and put me down, well, that's your problem. And so the difference between that and the religious ideology and the religious philosophy I like is that you emphasize empathy, and that we are all in the same boat, and what you have of power is not given to you by life as a charity, is given to you as a grace, and there is a God behind it. And if you keep reminding people in these systems, value systems, that you are not here forever, you are walking through life, and one day you will come to the eternal court, the court of law, where God is the ruler, and this is a power you cannot reach and you cannot put down, but he can reach you and he can put you down. He can make you pay for how you used this grace that he invested in you. He chose you to be somehow to get to that position of being rich, or understand how to make the tech. You were at the right time, right moment. You fought your way through, and you know it inside you. You know there was a grace, something that helped you through, because thousands of others has failed, and you could see you don't have more special powers than the 1,000 others sitting in the IT community and working on logs and working on different stuff, but something made things happen for you, and you know it inside you, because it's put in you. That's the religious philosophy anyway, that it's put in you by God through consciousness and through your conscience, that you know that sometimes you can be given something, and that's something God will ask you for later. So you have to use it wisely, and you have not to suppress the people or ignore them or be egoistic or think that you are above the law or the rule. Isn't that a beautiful thought? In my opinion, the most beautiful idea, the most beautiful thought and belief we can have is the belief in this powerful, all-reaching, all-knowing, and all-graceful God that will put things in good order some way or another, because life is basically in different levels unjust, and people suppress each other and have things others don't have, and try to take things from others they don't have. And people thought that the God of democracy would help them out of that, but as this guy said, as I said in the former video, the God of democracy has failed. The democracy has failed its people. The God has fallen, as he said in that book. And I didn't know about that book, but it's, in my idea, it seems a very true statement. And so now these people want to exchange that, the last straw of people holding on to something that seems like justice and fairness and human rights and equality. but it's not, and we all know it, but nobody is daring to face it, because what's the alternative? It's the dark abyss, or it's back to the feudal system, or it's back to the religious systems, and nobody wants that from the Western societies. But people are now starting to accept that there are these different ideas and ways. They're just putting it in a new forms, a new bottle, old wine in a new bottle, as it's said. So where are they heading with us with these ideas? And would their atheistic approach be more securing than if they had a religious empathy? I don't know. I know it can be different from view to view, but where I come from and from my youth, I really had this clear view and philosophy that there are like two kind of societies, and now we're getting back to one of these type of societies, and where is it heading? And that's the big question: why or why not? And so why yes is because things cannot go on like this, and we have seen in the history of ideas in the West that things can shift from pole to pole. I've seen it many times, reading about it, and maybe it's just because it's emphasized. We have these two pillars in the Roman Empire. Now they are a republic, and they try upholding it and keeping it. Then it falters and falls from within because of corruption and these senators and their struggles and people going astray from the values of democracy, and nothing holding them back because, well, everybody has his freedom and you cannot say anything to people. There is no strong leader actually. And so it becomes corrupt, and then the strong leader emerges and he takes over. And if he succeeds and people follow him and he let the people with the money rule, isn't that happening in the world today? Doesn't we have it in Russia? It's called a presidency and a democracy, but we know behind the surface that strong czar is leading. And I'm not saying that's good or bad. I'm just saying that's the way it is. And he's upholding society by controlling the military and the intelligence society, the gangs and the oligarchs, and like controlling people with different voices and saying, listen, this is the way it is here. And if you are dissatisfied, you can get out of here. That's how it is. You don't say, I'm Russian, I have a citizenship, so I can oppose you. We don't need that. That's a way of destroying society from within. That's the reality, not only of Russia, but the same with many other countries. And what these people in the NRX movement are saying, that goes for the West as well. They can destroy you with very limited time, using the media against you, using the politicians, using people to come and hunt you without you knowing it. So where are the security that we are talking about? Where are the human rights and freedom of speech? Is it also all an illusion in a way? And is it all just a way of a facade that the elites with a special ideology they call the cathedral people, they are leading us there? So why not accept that life is like that? Some people just have a lot and others doesn't have anything. And some people can be productive and others they falter behind and they will get nothing. If they are lucky, they can have their communities look after them, or some special groups or funds that's made for this. So I don't know what to hope for and what to look for, but I like some of the notions that we are going into a transformative period. It's going to be a catalyzer for people who are deep asleep and not aware of what's going on. They will start thinking, and people will either oppose it very, very hardly and go very leftist, like some are already doing, and some will go along with it and say, well, this is the natural state, let's get this transformation going. These are strong and powerful people, and we are sure that they would not let us down, because their ideas and ideology and thoughts are also built on productive people, and they need to keep it going, keep the people, the HR of governing people and making them productive and keeping them productive. They're gonna look into that, because they will need a stronger and bigger workforce, unless they're gonna get people from all over the world. And that's the other side of it, that the transnational companies won't look at your ethnicity. They don't care about your religion or background or color. They look of, do you fit in here in the company, and do you have the productivity and knowledge that's needed? And that's what they need to be free to do. They don't need to to be controlled and regulated by governments, and that's maybe what they are calling for. And what will the people do? Well, if the people loses sight of democracy and see it as a facade, as they are saying, and see it as, well, democracy isn't helping us anyway, we are being let down by it, and we have all these kind of movements that's opening up for dangers from many places and many ways, and society is falling apart. Let's follow this movement, because that can at least lead us to a more cohesive and understandable society. So I think we're going to see more of it, and I was very thrilled to read this article and follow it online, and I believe it has two major flaws to it, and these are the two flaws I'm seeing. The first one is the basic rights of the people who are not needed, and or will not be needed later. And the second one is, how would they look at the values, and how would they look at their role? Would they become tyrannical? Isn't that the tendency of every ruler? Even in the religious societies, they became tyrannical. So how won't they be in a rule where they can just bend the law and make the law and do it as they like, and people has to accept it and live with it? But wouldn't that also be freeing for the people, knowing they are slaves anyhow? Because right now they say they are living on a notion and that they are free, but they are not. And look at most people, they go to work and come back. Are they really free? They are caught up with stress and debts and economy that doesn't hold on, and they have to work and work and work and have time to minor things. They can't even follow the politics anymore, and the news isn't really giving them the real picture, as many people are starting to say these last decades. And so people know more and more it's an illusion. So why not give that illusion up to the reality and know we are governed by elites and transnational governments and people who anyway bend the law to make things go their way, because the people who are chosen to represent the people, they know they need these people to keep going representing the people. And so we are caught up in this, they call it the facade, I call it a kind of, maybe it's kind of a farce if they want to say it more accurate. And so why not give that up and really accept reality, and at the same time make sure that these governing entities have space for people, and they can maybe do that by having shares in the companies, or everyone who works in a place have a small share in it, and that's also enticing and incitament for productivity as we know it. So maybe it's not all that black and white, but there are two like main red lights I can see in the horizon. But when I look back and look at the current situation, do we want to continue this way? Well, I for one would like a change, and would like to see the world coming to another place. But maybe my idea is that I want a place with more compassion and more empathy and more spiritual values among people, not more materialism and concurrence between people on material level, and companies who want to just swallow people and swallow the nations and swallow the transnational opportunities. And people has to fight to get into these companies, otherwise they are outside and they don't have anywhere to turn to. And from there you will have the new revolution, and you will have the new uprising of those left behind. They will be the people who would look deeply into the scary situation of poverty and being excluded. So there will be a very, very rich and well-going society with people leading and working, and other people who are outside. That's what I can see could be one of the end products of this new type of NRX movement government. A leader who can do what he wants. There's the only rule is what he fits is the interest, and that's very different from the theocratic religious rule. I know they can be big cheats, these religious people, and I have opposed many of their thoughts, and I don't want to live in a theocratic society. But some of the basic religious values they carry is that the leader is under God's law. He's not outside it and he's not above it. So what kind of God's law are these people under, actually, if they are atheists and their God is the corporate? So they will be like a kind of tech monarch who will run free and do what he or she likes, and only people who are productive or interesting will be part of it, and others would not. And what would they have to fall back on? That's the big question in seen from a democratic society perspective. And the human rights will falter because they see them as a farce and as something that's just a way to make people live in an illusion. They always say take the red pill, and that's the pill of the matrix. And I'm agreeing to that, because I know many people are living in this illusion of a free and totally disintegrated society. It's totally open society, but it's actually a disintegrated society where people are losing their identity, understanding, and going to therapy, trying to find meaning in things, and the therapist trying to find new ways to make people like being continuously productive. So something is going totally wrong, and it's maybe a way they're gonna save the Western society, these entities of NRX people. You never know. And if people starts going that way more and more, which I think could be possible, we're gonna see a big change. And after that change, we're gonna be de facto into a new world, and that will also give inspiration to movements from other type in other places in the world. But some places in the world it's already like that. If you go to the Middle East, you have these rich countries with a monarch and religious values, and everybody, there's a hierarchy. People know where they are, where they belong. But there is a kind of social system, because that's the basic in the religious values, that you have to give part of your richness to people who are in need, and it must be distributed, and families are responsible for each other, and small entities are responsible for each other. So when they oppose Christianity in the West, and maybe they would oppose the religious rule in the East, that would be a dreadful thing, because they will lose that part of compassion and understanding that's very much needed, because in every race there are losers and there are people who can't uphold themselves. And if we just accept that and saying, well, that's the jungle's rules, well, everybody will be under the jungle's rules sooner or later. That's not the way to uphold society and life. As Simone de Beauvoir, she said very famously that that the first thing humans learned was compassion or empathy, because the first man who got hurt during the hunt was taken care of. If they didn't do that, if they left him to die because he got weak, well, the next and the next and the next would get hurt, and nobody would take care of them, and that meant the extension of human society. So compassion is not only a question of being more moralistic, but also of survival. So they need to take this into consideration, and once they do, they start seeing that they have to have private entities governing people who need help. They cannot just leave them behind, but they just want to do it in private corporates. That's all. And who's gonna give these private corporates the money? It's gonna be the rich companies once again. So it will be kind of funds that's running business instead of governments. And I like that idea more, if they can take into account the religious aspects and the religious values, whether it's from Christianity, Islam, or Hinduism. I don't care. It's just about, it's not that I don't care, but it's just, I see it will be a kind of helpful way not to lose sight of the balance, because that's where they are headed, the NRX movement. They will lose sight of the balance of keeping society together, and just running transnational, and gaining gains, and more people dropped off the sides. That will, in the end, sooner or later, lead to a very, very grim situation, and maybe uprisings that will be put down again and again, and it will just create these under surface people who live in the tunnels and all that. They talk about in the Batman comics, like the children living in the sewers and doesn't have place in the sun. And there will be this very rich society who doesn't care and see that it's like This is a natural grace they've gotten from somewhere they don't know. And if you do not adhere to a stronger power than yourself, then your ego will grow so much that it thinks it's a god, and that's what's going to happen to these people. It's already happened. They think they are gods on earth, and they think that economy and power of money is first, and God is second or third or fourth. Well, that's naturally gonna lead to a very, very great sickness in themselves and in people around them and in society in the end, because the idea, and it's not an idea, it's a belief, it's a truth, that there is a God that can reach into our life and can give grace to someone, but say, listen, I'm giving you this, and I will let you feel it, and I will also at the same time let you understand that you're going to be responsible for this. There will be a curse in the other end if you do not do it right. And that's what we have. Some secret societies, they do. They don't like the organized religion and priests and whatever is there on the surface to govern people's life in theocracies, but they like to have alternative way of viewing things, and they will be aligning with the NRX movement. Maybe some of them will say that, well, that's the chosen people and chosen by God, and that's the transformation of values. And I know Wesley Cecil has been talking about this. I just didn't listen carefully to his talks lately because I've been busy, but I know he's been also addressing this. Wesley Cecil has a YouTube channel I would recommend, because he's also talking about transformation of all values. Just came to think of it, that word, transformation of all values. So we need to get back to something, but by getting back to that something, we are losing the balance. But staying at the same status quo is not possible either. So I understand the shift and the necessary movement that's happening, but at the same time, it's going to be opposed very hardly. And I like it's transforming the pseudo-democratic situation we are in. I would like to get out of that, but at the same time, I'm scared that where we are headed is to a pseudo-feudalistic, atheistic society. And I don't want a theocratic society as well. So what do I really want? What I really would like to see is this natural order unfold, but under the rule of very strong values that goes into the heart of people, the values of empathy and understanding that the grace of God is given but can be taken, and the rule of the jungle is wrong, opposite the light that God wants to give the Israelites at that time. He chose them because he made them realize that under the rule of the one God and the rule of these laws that govern their way of life, not necessarily all these details they're practicing, and in my opinion in a very wrong manner, all these very, very strange rules of how to clean and not to clean, and on which day and what time. What's that? But the general rules: don't kill, don't take things that doesn't belong to you. The main values, the main ethics, they are the light from God, and under that they will prosper and they will take care of each other and they will never falter, while the other societies will go into very, very dark pits of very, very rich people and very, very sick and poor people, and people who has lost all human connection and lost the empathy and became psychopaths. And we've seen them in the Roman society just before they got invaded by barbarians, and we've seen it in other societies just before they got invaded by the Mughals and Mongols. So this is gonna repeat, but we just need to go through the next 40-50 years maybe, living this NRX transformal situation with a new feudal tech king ruling the world. So yeah, I would like to support it full-heartedly, but I can't. I'm worried for two issues: the people, the basic rights, who will take care of that, so we don't lose people on the ground because we need to have empathy at some level. And the second part of it is what about the values, the deep core values of these people who's going to have the power? would they adhere deeply from their hearts that this grace they've been given is something they will be asked for, and they will be trialed for. In other words, there will be a hell if they do wrong, and they have to be careful and do it right, and thereby spread this purity of goodness and stoicism and being careful in how they lead and inclusive and bring blessing to the world. That's what we need. We need this blessing. We just don't need more powerful people running wild and doing whatever they like, just leaving the bureaucracy behind and leaving people behind. We can see this democracy is failing. The God has failed its people, and I was close to taking democracy all in, and I'm part of it. And I thought that it could be a way of life as well, because I could see that the theocratic way of life would also be suppressive, and I didn't like that. But now I'm more aware that we need something in between, not the theocratic, neither the pure democratic, and we don't need surely this what can you say, this feudal way of life that's based on atheistic and non-compassionate values.